I'm going to talk about fake news. I'm going to specifically talk about CNN. And the reason why is because CNN was my favorite website and my favorite news network ever since I had cable TV in the 1980s. Through my college years, when I started using the internet, which was 1989 or something like that, I really was early on, and the web 1994. And I used to go to the CNN website, easy to remember, easy to do. Around the time when Barack Obama was running for president, I started to notice that CNN was fake news. And it wasn't just CNN, it just happens to be what I was reading every day. I discovered that the other news sites were fake news too. And I stopped reading all these news sites. And it wasn't because of Barack Obama. I'm just saying that it was around that time period. It was before he was elected. It was when he was campaigning. And what I noticed is that you'd go to the homepage and there'd be a link, and it would have a title, and you would click it and go to another page, and there would be a story. And I noticed that the titles on the link that you click was not the same title on the page that I ended up on. And sometimes what it said was the opposite of what the story was. It made an opposite claim. So it looked like shock news. It would say, oh, this is oppression, and then you click on it, and then the story is about the opposite. And I would notice because you would see the title in your browser bar, and I'd click on a link and go read something else, and I'd be, okay, where's that story about oceanography report? And I was like, I don't see a link that says oceanography report. And I said, and I start going through everything. Is why is it the title's different? And why does it say something different? So that's weird. And I would read the article, and I would say that the title that I clicked on is not what I just read. In fact, it's the opposite. For example, there was one about, I might have actually been Mike Pence, where it said Mike Pence is anti-gay. And then you read the article, and it was about how he was proposing pro-gay legislation. I was like, how is he anti-gay if he is proposing pro-gay legislation granting rights to gay people? The reason why is because he did not include one subset of like the 5 things that the gay community wanted, which was the right to punish businesses that didn't offer their service. And his argument was nobody has that right. You cannot have that right. Nobody has the right to sue a business because that business doesn't do business with you. You can't ask for that and have it specially just for you. So they said he's anti-gay, and the link said he's anti-gay, but the article did not. It said this is a pro-gay article. But you didn't know that until you read it. You had to read through it, and I said, this doesn't make any sense. But then I said, okay. And then I said, oh, this is the reason why. And it's not because the surface, well, he excluded the one thing. No, they didn't say that. He's anti-gay. And that's it. It's like, no, he's not anti-gay. All these things are pro-gay. And I had to figure it out on my own. I had to read other versions, other press releases to find out the one that's missing that key bit of information that about the loss. They wanted the right to sue, which nobody has the right to do in the United States. So there was something, it was Trump wants to increase pollution in the air. It's like, what are you talking about? Trump wants to increase pollution in the air? You really think that Donald Trump is saying, I'm thinking about increasing air pollution? It was just absolute nonsense. You read the article, and the article was not about Trump wanting to increase air pollution. It was about some sort of policy that the article writer supported that would reduce air pollution that Trump did not support, or something like that. It was about some sort of legislation or policy, or it could have been the TPP, or something that really had no effect on air pollution, or just I don't know what's the word that they call it, when you agree to do something but you don't have a procedure. Say, we're going to do something about the environment, and there's actually people that do that. When two world leaders meet, they have a discussion, and they say, okay, we're going to do something about trade between our two countries, and they leave it at that, and they don't say how they're going to do it. So he extrapolated from some sort of policy, well, if Trump doesn't do this, then therefore there must be more pollution, and therefore Trump wants there to be more pollution. And then the title of the article was, Trump wants more pollution, not true. It wasn't supported by what he wrote. there was another article about an oceanographic report. And it said, a certain organization releases oceanographic report. And I read it, and it was like 5 paragraphs. And at the end of every paragraph, it says, how's Trump going to deal with this? He's a climate change denier. And it says, well, the oceanographic report says that the temperature changes by 0.1%. Oh my God, Trump, he must be in a fury right now because he can't solve these problems. Then it would say, well, the oceanographic report says that the amount of fish species has increased over the last 10 years and there's been some decreases. Trump must be unable to sleep at night because fish are dying and he's a climate change denier. It's political propaganda. Why is every article about Trump? It's an oceanographic report. It had nothing to do with Trump. Absolutely nothing to do with Trump. And then there was another one about Brexit, Britain leaving the EU. And when you read it, guess what? It's all about Donald Trump. It's supposed to be an article about Britain leaving the EU. It said, for some reason, it was mentioning BMW. So, well, BMW's production of cars, how is Trump going to handle this problem? Britain's going to leave the EU, and they're no longer going to have the export of candles to the Danish. Trump must be upset and angry over this. And it was all political propaganda. And I'm the type of person I would read every news site. I would go to CNN, ABC, MSNBC, on and on and on. And then one day I noticed MSNBC, every story is anti-Trump. It's all political propaganda, not a single story that wasn't anti-Trump. And I looked at it today, and it was like 95% of the stories are anti-Trump. It's all Trump is bad, Republicans are bad, Pence is bad. It's 90% mention Trump, the other 5% mention Republicans, and the other 5%, the other story was a sports story. It was like LeBron James winning a shootout contest or something like that. And there was like 20 anti-Trump news stories. And MSNBC has been like this for years. It's political propaganda. This is not news. The New York Times I stopped reading because it was all propaganda. I was just reading stories on the New York Times, and this was a reputable newspaper, and I was like, these stories have nothing to do with Donald Trump. Why? They're using the story to bash Donald Trump. And before Donald Trump, it was Republicans in general, or maybe it could have been Mitt Romney or John McCain. So like I said, it's been going on for a long time. Fake news. 2006, 2007 is when I was so fed up with all the fake news, I stopped reading the news. And I'm a person who was reading the news since I was a child that would read the newspaper every day. I really liked the international news, and I had the news on all day long, CNN and headline news when I was a college student doing my work at home, when I would play video games, etc. I liked to read the news every day. Drudge Report. I'm going to go to Drudge Report right now. Let's see if there's anything weird. Drudge Report has sometimes the same thing where you read a link, you click on it, the story says something else. And you can start to tell now because the stories just sound ridiculous before you click on the link. Quoting people, always misquoted. When I was a kid, I was quoted by journalists for the local newspapers when I was in middle school and in high school, and what the journalists did, ignored anything positive that I said, took anything negative that I said, put it in the article, and made it look like I said offensive things to people. And it was done to another person that I know he said something about feeling like a nerd, being in the marching band or something like that. I don't know any recent Drudge Report stories, but okay, I'm going to give you another fake news. Putin, Russia, they had some sort of a law about handing out pamphlets for non-traditional sex to minors. And the Western and American media was in a fury about it, and the LGBT community was in a fury about it. And it was insane. They were wrong, and it was fake news. What they were reporting is that Putin was anti-gay. What the truth of the matter is that the law was, they would say, oh, they would use the word propaganda, which is a Russian word, which means pamphlet. But they would translate it into English, which is propaganda, which is a negative word, which means somebody lying. And the media harped on this all the time. And what the law was is exactly as I said before. It was illegal to hand out pamphlets to minors, which are children, about non-traditional sex. And guess what? It's illegal in the United States. If you don't believe me, make a pamphlet about non-traditional sex and go hand it out to a child in front of a police officer, and you will probably go to prison. You will probably lose your case no matter what your argument is. And not only for non-traditional sex positions, but you'd probably go to prison if you handed a child a document for traditional sex. So the uproar over it was absolute nonsense. How can you have an uproar over a law that another country passes when your country's laws are more strict and you are following those laws? It is fake news. And people don't investigate. They believe whatever they hear. They don't know the truth. I don't believe whatever I hear, and I investigate, and that's why I know the truth, and I know that there's so much fake news. And there's been a ton about Donald Trump. People misquote him all the time. I'm not going to get into it because it's just too much, and people just ignore it anyway. I'm going through my original material. There's lots of stories. I see them all the time. I guess on a daily basis I come across fake news, but I am no longer sensitive to it. I lost my drive to really delve in and investigate everything. Okay, so why don't we leave it at that? If you have any questions or comments, please post below.